Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. Josh is severe weather. Hope you all having a great day. I know here in Raleigh, I slept through it, but we got a little bit of rain overnight. Even some sleet and some graupel fell back around the Triad, and now it's snowing like the Dickens here in the Smoky Mountains. But what we're going to talk about is some big changes now as we've got a storm poised to move into the west and then head through the central U.S. Saturday into the eastern U.S. Sunday into early Monday, and some big changes in how that storm is going to be oriented and how things are going to kind of play out here that will completely kind of flip what I told you guys the last couple of days. This has still got some time to change, but we are seeing kind of a different storm track. Rather than having a big storm cutting up through the Great Lakes, what we're going to see is kind of a second wave form over the mid-Atlantic states Sunday night and track to the northeast. And that's going to allow the cold air to catch up to the moisture that's going to be in place rather than things drying out. And then we get the lake effect that kicks in, typically speaking. We're going to see rain changing over to snow here later Sunday into Sunday night, first in the eastern Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, then at night over the interior portions of the Northeast. And rather than dealing with a blizzard in the Great Lakes with strong winds, we're seeing those wind forecasts are going to be coming down quite a bit, which is better news for those of you in Michigan and Ohio and Ontario. But we still look at the potential on the warm side of the storm for some strong winds impacting coastal portions of the Northeast, especially eastern New England, with that potential for 60-mile-per-hour wind. But what looks like it's changing are snow totals likely to come up here in parts of Pennsylvania, New York, far southeast Ontario and Quebec, and even parts of western and northern New England. So this forecast still looks like it may shift some, but we're starting to see agreement now that the storm itself is moving kind of into what we call the modeled area, moving into the eastern Pacific and the Northwest. And as a result, some changes coming. And I'm going to show you that in just a little bit here. Currently on the water vapor image, you can see the atmospheric river continues to bring significant moisture into the Northwest. Here is a look at that plume of moisture that is spreading out ahead of our big storm system. Very heavy rain impacting Western Oregon and Washington. And we're also seeing significant rain over northern Idaho and northeastern Washington. So that stream of moisture continues here. We're going to see low pressure tracking into the Northwest and then right across Montana into the prairies. That's kind of our lead storm here for Friday. Behind it, the second storm is going to be the bigger weather maker, and we're going to be tracking that. And again, things look like they're shifting a little bit from what we've looked at the last couple of days. Now we're about 4 to 5 days out, and trends are starting to kind of materialize here where we're starting to get a better feel for where the storm's going to go. In the short term, we do have a weakness moving through this area, and we're going to see a little bit of light snow tracking across the interior of the Northeast today. Not a big deal, but some maybe more significant snows than what we've seen in parts of eastern Massachusetts. So I'm going to kind of break that down for you guys. We're going to see a colder push of air down into the southeast here today into tomorrow before we see this region of high pressure build eastward and warm things up here Friday into Saturday. So we are going to have a decent start to the weekend in the eastern U.S., but it doesn't end on a very good note. In fact, things are going to get pretty ugly here on Sunday. So that's what we're going to be talking about for you guys in this video. Taking a look first at what's going on here in the east today, we've got low pressure off the coast over here. I'm sorry if you can't see my cursor, but it's producing some upslope snows here over western North Carolina, over West Virginia, PA, New York State, and also a little bit of snow here over eastern Massachusetts. And most of that's going to fall this morning here, heaviest right around 9, 10, 11 a.m. before starting to wind down as we get to about mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock, which I think is when it starts getting dark for some of you. At least it seems that way. But we are going to see things quieting down tonight. A little bit of light snows continuing this evening over the Laurel Highlands, over the Alleghenies here. And then kind of what we call a warm advection event where we have a boundary that separates the colder air to the northeast and warmer air to the southwest. That's going to sweep eastward across the eastern Great Lakes here early in the day tomorrow, late tonight over the Georgian Bay, and then tomorrow morning. And we'll see some light snows in western New York first thing tomorrow before that spreads east and kind of fades. But still a little bit of snow to deal with here. So we may see some special weather statements coming out for brief accumulations of snow here over central New York State later in the day tomorrow into tomorrow evening. Then things settle down here in time for Friday. It's going to be a pretty cold morning Friday across eastern Canada, across New England, but a quieter weather pattern expected as we head towards the weekend. Here's a look at the NAM model showing how much snow is likely to fall today into tonight. And we see the NAM does go a little bit too bonkers, I think, here with 23 inches. I think we'll probably see 6 to 8 inches on the higher peaks of Klingman's Dome, of um, Mount LeConte, of the border mountains here. So very treacherous travel. Probably nothing in Asheville itself. West of Boone, we're likely to see a couple inches of snow falling as well. And also Mount Rogers could pick up several inches. Some of you that like to hike or camp are going to run into some of those problems here today into this evening. West Virginia, significant snow across the ski areas. That's going to be great for you guys here. We really didn't see that much last winter. We're already getting off to a better start this winter, as you might expect, as things have shifted to El Nino. But most of that snow is going to be falling today and winding down here this evening. We could even see a little bit here over the Front Range portions of Virginia. Not going to be much. The NAM tries to spit out a couple inches. I doubt it's going to be that much, to be honest with you guys. In the Northeast, we are going to see some snow as well. Pennsylvania, New York State, maybe an inch, maybe locally 2 or 3 over parts of Cattaraugus and Chautauqua counties here in New York. Lighter amounts here in central New York State, generally speaking, less than an inch. Probably nothing in State College. We did see the squall that came through there the other day, but we could see some light amounts around Johnstown, Somerset, parts of the Laurel Highlands as well, a little bit in the Poconos as well. And that starts later on this evening, continuing into the overnight hours. Looking at upstate New York here, again, a scattering of some light to moderate snow. I think you're going to see a little bit more, honestly, here tomorrow than you're going to see today, just with that warm advection band that comes through. Even portions of Ontario could pick up a quick 20 to 30 millimeters of snow if you want to go into metrics here. For those of you in Canada, 1 to 2 inches here in the imperial system. And then as we look at southern New England, we are going to see a little bit of snow this morning. Generally light amounts around Boston. When you get to the south coast, down towards Plymouth, there is the potential to see an inch, maybe 2 inches on the grass, probably not as much on the roads. And the majority of that's going to be late this morning into the early overnight hours. And then things kind of settle down after that. We'll see a little bit more here over the capital region here around Albany during the day tomorrow. But by the time that spreads eastward, probably not going to see much in Connecticut. This Kachera method does get to be a little bit too aggressive sometimes in what we actually see accumulating, but we could see a small amount of snow here during the day tomorrow. Now, big changes coming with our next storm system. This is kind of a look at the upper level pattern. This was our model run from Sunday night, the European. Notice how things have evolved now. As we get back into the previous run, we see that the upper low shifted back towards the Great Lakes, meaning potentially a significant snowfall around the Great Lakes region. I know there's ads on Tropical Tidbits. I do love this site, by the way. It's a free site, but ad supported, of course. As we move to yesterday's model, we could see that upper low starting to shift a little northward, pulling the snows away. And then we've seen a complete flip here in today's forecast. And rather than those two branches of the jet stream phasing into a negative trough, we actually have kind of a two-piece trough, the second piece of energy lagging behind it. And what that's going to do is going to bring the enhanced lift on the colder side of the storm during the day on Monday, Sunday night starting, but really into Monday. And it's going to kind of slow the progress of our clearing and allow more snow over parts of the Northeast and much less snow back across the Great Lakes. We saw the European tried to drop 16 inches of snow on Madison, Wisconsin. Well, this doesn't show that potential at all. It shows very little snow around Wisconsin and even Michigan and Illinois. So places in the Northeast that last winter, the models trended in the complete opposite direction where they'd show a storm and then shift it up and back it to the west. Now we're seeing that flip in the forecast trends where everything is kind of splitting off and we're seeing more across the Northeast and less across the Great Lakes, just a total flip. And if you look at El Nino, that's actually kind of what you might expect to see, is that more snow falls over the eastern U.S., less across the central U.S. than a typical winter. Well, if you look here at how things are behaving, rather than a negatively tilted trough, we actually have a positively tilted trough now showing up, a complete flip from yesterday and from previous days. So I'd love to say we love to get things right here in the longer term, but let's just be honest, this weather is going to humble us several times this winter and things are going to change. So we're just going to key in on trends and talk more about now what the Northeast potentially is going to see. And unfortunately for you in the plains and in the Midwest, not going to be as much snowfall. Well, maybe if you don't like snow, then this will be fortunate for you. But you can see rather than a negatively tilted trough, we've got a two-piece trough. The first piece sweeps through the Northeast. The second piece takes over and gets a push from the Northwest here. We kind of get some colder air coming in behind it before our next storm system. So here's what things are going to look like now on the latest European. You'll see kind of our first wave moves into the west here. This is tomorrow. This is into Friday morning. And we have a pretty decent cyclone moving through the prairies of Canada. Not much on the U.S. side of things here. There'll be some wind with this, but now we're seeing kind of two different pieces here. Rather than a strong cyclone forming in the Great Lakes and cranking the winds up big time Saturday night, now we see kind of more of a disheveled look here to the storm system. It is going to rain. It's going to get mild. It'll get windy here in the Great Lakes. But now, rather than there being a ton of snow in the Great Lakes here Saturday night, Sunday morning, we see things kind of drying out. And because our trough is actually stretched kind of northeast to southwest, it clears out. But take a look at what's going on down here in the Ohio Valley. We now have low pressure forming. That's slowing down our front, which a couple of days ago looked like it was going to be on the eastern seaboard Sunday afternoon. Now it's not even getting to you until later Sunday night. So we see some rain in the northeast on Sunday, but really Sunday night's going to be our time frame. But take a look at this. With this cold air pouring in, we now see a changeover to more substantial snow Sunday evening in portions of the northeast. It actually starts in the afternoon over parts of West Virginia and eastern Kentucky and central and eastern Ohio. So rather than it being rain Sunday morning, then dry, windy, and cold in Ohio, we see rain changing to snow and potential travel troubles for those of you that may be trying to get some travel in at the end of the weekend. Then we see more substantial snow across interior parts of the Northeast and Quebec as we get into Sunday night, but still lots of rain falling. Montreal, the Northeast here, the worst of that rain is not even going to hit the Boston area until very early in the morning on Monday. And then we switch over very quickly to snow across the highlands here early in the day on Monday. So a complete flip from what we were looking at a couple of days ago, where it was going to be rain and then the wind cranked up and we were going to have lake effect. Now that gets delayed as our storm comes in slower. And rather than a quickly deepening low, we have kind of a multi-piece system. Here's a look at the Northeast. This is 4 o'clock on Sunday right here. Whoops, let me, I don't know why it's still moving with me here. Okay. This is 4 o'clock on Sunday, and take a look at this. We've got a band of substantial rain, maybe even some thunderstorms, moving over central PA into eastern Pennsylvania, central Maryland. And we've already got to switch over to mixed precipitation and heavy wet snow back here across West Virginia. That includes Charleston and Fairmont and Bridgeport, all the way up to Pittsburgh here by the end of the day on Sunday. We could be dealing with some substantial snow. And then as we move into Sunday night, that heavy snow shifts into central Pennsylvania, into central Maryland, believe it or not, maybe even just north and west of DC. We could see some flakes falling here. You guys couldn't even buy a snowflake last winter. Now we're at least looking at some potential. It may not be a big potential, but at least some potential here. And we see substantial snow rather than across Michigan and Ohio. It's going to be farther east. So quite a shift coming here. And then as we look at Sunday night, we see heavy rain, maybe some potential flooding over the Connecticut River Valley, all the way up into New Hampshire and eastern Vermont, switching over quickly to snow as temperatures crash and the moisture is still around as that cold air does catch up to the moisture this go around. We do see some lake effect, but we're not going to see nearly as much wind with this weaker low as it splits off into two pieces rather than one more intense piece. So sorry to say, but this forecast is probably going to change a little bit more. But overall, we're seeing this not just on the European, but on other models as well. So what does it look like snow-wise? Well, maybe some significant snow here Saturday night, or I'm sorry, not Saturday night, Sunday night, and even Sunday afternoon. We see amounts that may get up close to an inch in eastern Kentucky, 1 to 2 inches along I-77 all the way up to Pittsburgh, and then 3 to 6 inches over the higher elevations of West Virginia, Western Maryland, even a few inches around State College, where we didn't look like we were going to see much on yesterday's models, a few inches as well over central New York, including Binghamton and Ithaca. And then as we move on into time, we could see this become a boom over upstate New York and maybe even a boom for central and western PA and Maryland. Even look at central Maryland here as we move this along. Probably going to stop short of I-95, but we're watching trends if you're on I-95. If for some reason this second wave that comes up ends up a little further south and east, it allows the cold air to bleed in faster, then Monday morning could be very interesting on the I-95 corridor. So stay tuned right now. That's all I can really say. But certainly this is a big shift from what we saw a couple days ago. If you looked at the European model here and we went back just a day, we had pretty much nothing showing up here, just a very minimal amount of snow. The wraparound snows you typically see in the mountains, but everything was back here across upper Michigan and across Ontario. Today's model run has just completely flipped. And yeah, there's a little bit of snow up around the Great Lakes, as you might expect. Those of you that live up there, this is no surprise. But just a complete shift. Instead of blizzard conditions over central Ontario, we're seeing wet snow, or a switch from rain over to wet snow here Sunday night. So stay tuned on that. Here's a look at what the 24-hour snow totals look like on the European. And there could be a little bit of snow still in Iowa and Wisconsin, but nothing in Illinois, nothing in Michigan, really, other than the UP, nothing in Missouri. So things have very quickly shifted here. Now we start to see potential snow even back to the north of Nashville, Tennessee, around Bowling Green and Hopkinsville and Lexington and Louisville, potentially close to an inch of snow falling here late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. But it doesn't really pick up until we get into Ohio and we get into the higher elevations Sunday afternoon. And then here comes the potential boom over Quebec, over New York State, over Northwest Vermont, and even into the mountains of Pennsylvania, even the higher elevations here. So stopping short of the I-95 corridor, but this trend is certainly starting to shift eastward, and we're going to have to keep monitoring that for you guys here. Behind this, we do see some lake effect snow again, as you might imagine, off of Lake Ontario, off the Georgian Bay, off of Superior, and off of Erie. It's probably not going to be a major snowfall, nothing like what we saw here last week, but we could see several inches falling east of Lake Ontario Monday night into Tuesday. We do have severe weather potential. Things are still shifting some, but we are seeing a good transport of moisture. I'm not quite as impressed with the chances for tornadoes as I am maybe just some hail and severe wind at the onset here Friday night over eastern Oklahoma, over the Ozarks region, even maybe shifting into northwest Louisiana. And then into Saturday, that shift is more to the south. I don't think we're going to see as much on Sunday as we do Saturday afternoon and Saturday night due to that shift in the trough. It's no longer looking like it's a negatively tilted trough. So rather than a deepening cyclone, we just have a southern storm here that could produce some severe weather. That doesn't let you completely off the hook, of course, but it is certainly a shift in maybe what things looked like a couple days ago. But we still see the potential for severe weather and heavy rain across the southeast and the deep south here. We could see some moisture return Friday night. But here you'll see on Saturday, showers and storms moving through, and significant amounts into Mississippi and western Florida and Alabama here Saturday afternoon. Saturday night, we see rounds of showers and storms. There could be a little bit of severe weather with this. And then as we track into Sunday, we see that line of storms moving through East Tennessee, through Georgia, and into the Florida Panhandle on Sunday morning. And we could see some nasty storms across Florida here Sunday afternoon, as well as the low countries of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. This is a pretty intense storm down here. I would not be shocked to see severe weather across parts of Florida. Some beneficial rain coming as well to the Western Peninsula. And then things are going to shift through here. This is Sunday at 7 p.m. And then things kind of fall apart in South Florida. So you aren't going to see too much rain in South Florida here, but you will see some showers and storms later Sunday into Sunday night, followed by cooler, more tranquil weather by the beginning of next week. Taking a look at our lightning potential here, again, we're going to see some severe weather. You can see pretty active across Louisiana. That was yesterday's model. Let me shift you to today. But you can see, generally speaking, the trend is a little bit lower for lightning strikes here than what we saw before. That's because our low is not deepening as quickly and it's moving along more progressively in the southeast. So not to say there won't be severe weather, but chances are a little bit lower today than what they were yesterday. There is moisture return here on Friday across South and East Texas. You can see this cape that is convective available potential energy. That's our storm fuel. It's kind of limited, but it is there. It's going to be around here Saturday night. And then we see things kind of lessening by the time we get to Sunday. Here's a look at rain potential in the southeast. I was showing you guys the timing on things. We still do see a threat for heavy rain over the Tennessee Valley, over parts of the deep south. 1 to 2 inches, generally speaking. Louisiana, unfortunately, this isn't going to be a huge rainmaker for you. You need the rain still, but we're not going to see anything more than your standard run-of-the-mill early winter system. But we could see significant rain over the Panhandle, maybe up to 3 inches of rain around Panama City. And then looking at Florida here, the peninsula, generally speaking, is going to see 1 inch or less. So not a huge rainmaker, but it will produce some rain with it here. Taking a look at the Ohio Valley, this is where things have trended downhill when it comes to lightning chances. So really not as bad a forecast, but still some potential thunderstorms here Sunday evening over portions of Tennessee, Kentucky, and the Ohio Valley. Not looking quite as bad as it did yesterday as far as aggressive storms, but we will see some heavy rain There is some moisture transport here. Obviously, we do have warmer temperatures and some wind here, but we just don't have a ton of storm fuel. So kind of a limited chance for severe weather here Saturday night, and really a very limited chance on Sunday. Take a look at temperatures, though. We are going to see that surge of warmth, upper 50s to around 60 here, even in the evening Friday night, 50s in Chicago as we start our day on Saturday. And then temperatures crash here as this front drops through, and we're down into the 30s by Saturday evening. Here's our front late Saturday night. This is 1 a.m., so early Sunday morning, technically. You see it moving through Ohio and Tennessee and Alabama here, and then you see the cold air floods in behind it. Well, as the moisture is still going to be around, we're going to see daytime temperatures Sunday only in the middle 30s here over parts of Kentucky and Ohio, low 40s shifting into the 30s here by the evening in West Virginia. So not really a flash freeze, but it will be cold enough for this rain to go over to snow before temperatures drop below freezing. If it snows heavily enough, it doesn't matter. If the air temperature is 35, it will find a way to stick. So that's kind of the point I wanted to make for you guys. And it'll be a lot colder in the mountains here too at the end of the day Sunday. So those of you that have plans to be in the mountains here Sunday are going to get caught with some heavier wet snow. Here's a look at the air mass that follows it. Just seasonable cold at this point for Monday. And then we start warming back up here by Tuesday and Wednesday. It takes some time, but we are going to start to warm things back up. Here's rainfall totals in the Ohio Valley. Generally speaking, lesser amounts now around the Great Lakes. Let me speed this along for you a little bit. Higher amounts over eastern parts of the Ohio Valley, eastern Tennessee Valley, and North Georgia. Generally speaking, 1 to 2 inches. I'm sure some of you will find a way to get to 3. And then here, looking at our storm system moving into the Ohio Valley, we see some storms Saturday morning. And then we see, generally speaking, fewer lightning strikes by Saturday night. And Sunday, it looks like just limited chances for thunder here. So unlikely to see severe weather in the Delaware Valley. The bigger chances are going to be for heavy rainfall and for stronger winds on the warm side of the storm system as it moves in Sunday evening. And I'll show you the storm fuel real quick, but I need to move things along here. You can see it's very limited here. By the time we get into Pennsylvania, there could be some rumbles of thunder, but I don't think we're looking at any severe weather. Better chance for stronger storms probably here over the Outer Banks and in eastern North Carolina Sunday evening. Here's our temperature drop as we look at Saturday or Sunday, and we see it's getting pretty warm here, 40s and 50s, getting up into the 60s Sunday afternoon in eastern PA, 30s in western PA, so about a 30-degree drop coming. Even in the evening hours in Philadelphia here, we're looking at low 60s, 60 degrees in the 5 boroughs, mid to upper 60s in the Outer Banks in the evening. But look, this cold air is lurking. And as we get into Sunday night, temperatures tumble. We're in the 60s in the evening in Philly. And then by daybreak on Monday, we're in the mid to upper 30s. So we are going to see a quick switch over here to much colder weather that sticks around for the beginning of next week. And very cold in New England here the next couple of days. Sub-zero temperatures in parts of Maine with that fresh snowpack from a couple days ago. Parts of Quebec are going to be below 0 Fahrenheit, so about 20 degrees below Celsius in some spots here. We see this cold does lift away here. It'll be another cold morning tomorrow, and then Friday things start to improve. And then the weekend looks a lot milder here as we are into the 40s on Saturday. Take a look at Sunday here as we send temperatures up into the mid and upper 40s in parts of Maine, 50s in Massachusetts, and you may actually see warmer temperatures at night, Sunday night, as that heavy rain and the stronger winds move in here. We're going from the 30s in the afternoon to the 50s here at night over parts of Quebec, even around Montreal and Quebec City, before that colder air quickly moves in. So temporary warmth Sunday night, then turning colder on Monday. The cold hasn't caught up to you yet in Maine, but it will get there Monday evening, as you can see here. Just some big switches coming here. Rain totals are going to be pretty significant as well. 1 to 2 inches of rain. Some areas could pick up over 3 inches of rain, especially those higher elevations of the Northeast. Most of that's going to be Sunday afternoon in the eastern Great Lakes, then Sunday night across the rest of the Northeast, and Monday morning across portions of Maine and eastern Massachusetts. We do have wind to talk about here. This was yesterday's model run of strong winds here, and you saw gusts over 60 on Lake Erie and over 50 on the Georgian Bay and on Lake Huron. We saw wind gusts of 70 miles per hour on yesterday's model run. Now today, because of the low pressure track, we do not see that kind of wind over the Great Lakes, and that is good news for us. Wind gusts only getting up into the 30s here in Michigan and Ohio. However, on the warm side, we still have that transport of strong winds, and gusts could get over 50 miles per hour in New Jersey and over 60 miles per hour in eastern New England, which includes Cape Cod and the islands. Here's a zoomed in view of that. And we're still looking at potentially strong winds here Sunday night, 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts, maybe even close to hurricane force. Not sure if it's going to play out quite that strong, but certainly there's potential for it. And then in Atlantic Canada, we do see some stronger winds here, but not as strong as what we were seeing before. Strong low-level jet out of the south here Sunday night, followed by colder, drier weather here on Monday night and Tuesday. So the winds behind the storm shouldn't be as bad as they are ahead of the storm. We did have new seasonal forecast drop from the European model forecast suite yesterday. Here's a look at what last month's winter forecast showed for January. And here's a look at the current model run. You can see it's trending colder across the eastern United States. So if you are a winter weather fan, this could bode to be better news for you in January. Looking ahead to February, kind of the same thing. If you looked at last month's model runs, we saw cooler than average heights. And if you look at this month's model run, you can see that cold is expanding. I don't think it's a significant change, but it is a trend in the direction of snowier and colder as we get to later January and February in the eastern U.S. So that's what I'm going to be watching for you guys. Temperature forecasts haven't shifted a ton. This is next month. This is January, and you can see actually the latest European hasn't trended quite as cold. We'll see about that. But if you look at February, it is trending chilly again. Here's last month's run for February. Here's this month's run. You can see, generally speaking, a little bit colder. So I'm not changing my forecast any bit for this winter. It looks like things are kind of holding strong here. This was last month's seasonal forecast for the winter. This is this month's seasonal forecast for the same time frame, and looks a little bit wetter on the Gulf Coast and in Florida than the last model run did. But overall, not much has changed in our forecast feeling here. Here's a look at the shorter term temperature forecast. It does get colder here next week. You see the chill in the south, but really we see a second push of cold coming down into Texas first and into the Gulf states here over the weekend, next weekend. So around the 16th and 17th. And then we see that cold expanding. So we are going to see a colder look here to the week leading up to Christmas in the south and east. Christmas week itself could still be pretty chilly in the south and east. We'll see about winter weather threats. This doesn't look tremendously snowy, but obviously we're going to have to keep an eye on things. But as we head into January, you'll see the weekly forecasts show significant chill that it will likely take shape here around and after New Year's over the eastern and southern United States. A much different look than what we saw last January, where we were blazing warm and talking about storm tracks cutting up through Minnesota and through Wisconsin. This certainly favors a more winter here over the eastern United States. So stay tuned is all we're going to say at this point. Still tough to say who's going to get what snow. Here's a look at the potential for something moving into the southwest here over the high plains and then spreading into the northeast potentially the week leading up to Christmas. So we may see a winter storm at some point cutting up through Ohio into the northeast here around the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And then beyond that, we see probably a lesser chance for snow in the southeast until we get into early January when the control model tries to show something maybe affecting the southeast into the mid-Atlantic states by the first weekend of January, around the 5th or 6th. We'll have more on that. Obviously, it's a month away. Things are going to change, but these are definitely more encouraging trends than what we saw this time last year. So I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you so much for watching today. Please consider becoming a subscriber if you have not yet subscribed. And I thank you for your time today. I give all the glory to God. He has given me the strength on a daily basis to share the weather with you all. It's my gift from God. Everybody has a gift. Each one of you matters. God has created each one of you, in my personal opinion. And God has given us each perfect gifts. I am a Christian man. I read the New Testament on a daily basis because it is something that just drives me to encourage other folks. You may not be a believer, and that's personally for me, that's okay. I would love it if you were, but it's not up to me to judge you. But I will say that every day I go to my knees and thank God for what he's given me, the gifts he's given me, the family he's given me, the friends, and the ability to get on YouTube and share with you all on a pretty much daily basis. James 1:17, King James Version, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Rain is a gift from God. Flood Maybe not necessarily flooding, but rain is a gift from God. Sunshine is a gift from God. Rainbows are God's promise. Every gift comes from above. And I just have to put things first that matter the most, and that's putting God first in everything that I do. There's going to be days we all struggle, we all get sick. I just have gotten past the flu here. Some of you may be pretty sick, and I'm happy to pray for you if that's your case. However, I still think if we look at every day, nothing is promised, but the fact that we are alive here and talking to each other and sharing with each other is a huge gift. None of that's a guarantee, but God continues to provide us with perfect gifts from above. And if you accept Christ as your Savior, He will provide you with eternal life and wipe you clean of your debts. When your time on earth is gone, you can live eternally in heaven with Jesus. That is the good news. That is the perfect gift that's coming from above, not just life, but eternal life. And I just wanted to share that with you because it excites me every day to do so. I pray that it excites you, and I'm happy to pray for you with whatever you're going through today. But there is hope. This is a wonderful season. Christmas is Jesus's birthday. It brings people together. I realize it could be tough on a lot of folks, but we wouldn't even be in this situation if it weren't for God sending His Son to die on the cross for us. Hope you all have a great Wednesday. We'll chat again tomorrow morning. God bless.